Hey folks, welcome to CTF Radio. I'm Adam D, and I have with me, as always, Zardus. Zardus, you want to say hi?
Hello, everybody. Great to be back, as
Yeah,
always.
Ad, great to be back as always. Exactly. Leading off with that very strong introduction, we have a special guest today of nobody. So we actually have no guest lined up. It's just going to be Jan and I. I don't know whatever title I put in this podcast that made you tricked you into watching it, but it's just us. We have no guests, and so the kind of goal today is we're not going to have. So it's right now as we record this, it's basically the 1st of December. We decided we're going to take a little break in December in order to kind of build up a queue of podcasts for the coming new year. We have some cool things in the works, but that way we can build up a queue because it's been a little bit, trying to push these out weekly has been a little bit of a stretch, especially as we hit. Now we've got 12 in the book. So we kind of wanted to take this opportunity. You can see the Christmas tree behind me. December, it's close to the new year, a season for reflection. And so, yeah, Jan and I wanted to kind of reflect back on this first season of CTF Radio. So why don't you start us off, Jan?
Yeah, I actually like to think of this as the season finale, right? So we had our first season. We did 12 episodes. This is episode 13, episode D, rather.
Yeah.
It's been.
Well, don't spoil the plot twist for people. I don't want to know the plot twist of our season finale, so they'll just have to watch through all the way to the end of the episode.
to wait for the cliffhanger. I think the plot twist is my hair is just going to get, or both of our hair is just going to keep going insane.
It keeps growing.
Anyways, yeah, so I think it's important, like, at the season finale to reflect back to the early days, right? And, of course, CTF Radio was maybe not born, but conceived at DEF CON this year, right? It was a virtual DEF CON. It DEF CON safe mode. And because it was DEF CON safe mode, we had this opportunity where we could have a outbrief or whatever, a summary of the day every day for DEF CON CTF for everybody. Right. And so this is impossible normally because, in order to do this, you'd have to walk over to a presentation room. It just not work. There's not enough time. But you could really tab into a Discord voice channel and just talk.
And we got people, right? We got audience, like people who were attending DEF CON safe mode and didn't know what CTF was or understand what CTF was. These may have been the people that would, walk past the table in the DEF CON, the CTF area and say, hey, what's going on here? And assuming how on fire things are, we'd try to tell them. So, but this time we actually got to go in depth with them.
Yeah, exactly. And because it was all digital and there were more breadcrumbs, people were able to reach out afterwards and say, hey, I really enjoyed this part, right? I really enjoyed that you talked about the challenges. I really enjoyed that you talked about what CTF is. Because, I've seen it before and I've seen people, sitting around at tables, but it's hard to truly grasp what's going on. And there were so many varied, I liked X, so many varied X variables there that we realized, we could just talk about a lot of different aspects of the CTF scene and it would be interesting for people. And I think, Adam, obviously you had this brilliant idea. Let's just do it. So we just,
it's the first step of getting started. It's the same advice we give people to getting into CTF. You just have a crazy, silly idea. You just do it and see what happens. And don't worry about that. Neither of us know how to edit video and or audio or do any of that stuff.
Adam will learn on the fly. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. Jitting your own knowledge, which I think is important.
Yeah. So looking back, like at the very beginning, is interesting to me because we had kind of no idea would we be talking to the void, and probably initially we were just talking to the void, but very quickly people started getting excited. My headphones, I think, just died, so that's going to be interesting. But I'll just keep babbling. So people started getting excited, and we were able to actually, talk to really interesting people. Uh, oh, sorry, Adam, I can't hear you. That's okay.
Yeah, I know.
It's better.
Sorry, I. It's going through your thing, man. We've done how many episodes of this? Oh, maybe I'll add the bloopers to the end of this one too.
Yeah. It's okay.
I don't see you uploading any. Oh, okay. There we go. You're on. You're good now.
Success.
Okay.
Yeah, this is, I mean.
All right, so give me a clean.
I think actually, let's talk about the bloopers.
Oh. The bloopers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's mainly just you not being able to know. It's mainly you not being able to know when I'm talking and doing the intro and or outro. So it's a very well defined point. We have everyone on board, and like I just start talking, and you interrupt me in the middle of a thing that I had just told you and our guests. Like I'm going to do this. It's absolutely incredible. Insane.
I think the first time you read that outro, so Adam is very organized. He's an organized, functional human being, unlike some of us. And he wrote up the outro. He sent it to me. There's a document that like, and this is the outro, and this is the, and so on. And he's going on with the outro, and I didn't read the document. I thought it was a shared folder, and I might have.
You thought like Adam's just coming up with all this stuff magically.
This is incredible. He's just going off on it. And then I jumped in to try to get a like and subscribe in there, but it didn't work. you can.
I edited those out. Yeah, I can mute your side of the audio. That's the great thing about having editor qualities. So yeah, so we kind of took that idea. Maybe we mentioned it or not, I can't remember, but the name of CTF Radio kind of came to me when I was jogging in the morning. I was like, oh, that's the name. Like that's perfect. We can have the three. And then I think we both were talking about it and came up with the 3 O's to, yeah, there you go in the mug in the video that kind of pays homage to Order of the Overflow and our love for all things OOO. So so it's been a crazy journey in the sense that like people actually tell us that they listen to this, that people that we know and don't know or didn't ask or beg to watch it, right? I think that's been kind of the most surprising to me.
Yeah. I mean, what I find interesting is a lot of our students watch this, right? So there was one time when we had a very tight schedule where we had to start at 4 p.m. That was the only time that would work for. I think it was
one of the guests, let's say.
Yeah, I don't remember which episode it was, but I had office hours right up against that. And then in office hours, I go through and I demonstrate, I do some live exploitation or whatever the subject of the week is. And it was just super rushed. And I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, I have to bail. I bailed. I switched over to it was our live show. I switched over to the live show. And of course, normally we have a recording schedule that whatever, if you don't have a guest or if whatever, if you're a couple minutes late, Adam can keep the guest happy or vice versa. Yeah.
And pretend to talk about setup and audio and those kinds of things.
Exactly. Or, if it's just us, then Adam sometimes waits for me for 1, 2, 3 hours. No. But I had to be there right on time because it was the live show. And then I go and then I see, I don't remember, because we were also streaming on Twitch. I have it up on Twitch, and it's the same people from my office hours dove into I'm like, oh, cool. They were also
this is your cool, important meeting. We don't understand ROP, but we got to hear you talk about CTF and answer questions.
Exactly. I think I got a nasty gram on Rate My Professor, unfortunately, for that one, but that's the risk of the of the job. Yeah,
it's podcasting life, man.
So that's been super interesting, seeing who is kind of tuning in. I mean, also other than our parents and this sort of stuff, right? It's been interesting who it reaches and also who comes back with feedback that, hey, this was a great or this sucked sometimes. I don't know if you've gotten negative feedback, but
I mean, only the times when I mess up the audio of the podcast right. And like the Like this happened several times where I don't know if it's the software using. I honestly don't understand audio or video stuff. It's I don't like the attitude that it's beyond my capabilities to understand, but I'm at an incredibly noob level when it comes to those things. And compared to all the things I understand about computers, this freaking analog signal that just looks like this, I don't understand. So sometimes in our
Yeah,
recordings, we'll have these insane pops that are like all the way at the thing. And so I have to like edit those out. Otherwise, you get some super weird stuff. Like I think this happened in Corwin's video, or in the first video with PvP on Dropship AI, where Corwin's audio, I think he had something wrong with his computer. It's right before he crashed. And so he had these insane spikes. And I forgot to edit them out. And it caused us to lose, for some reason, like 4 minutes of audio. Like it was bonkers. Like I don't understand any of this stuff.
And then the last, by the way, everybody, this is a guy that literally found a 0-day, right? And I think PostgreSQL or MySQL's input processing to solve a CTF challenge. And where's the audio? How does audio work? I mean, I don't know
it's
either.
Insane. It doesn't make any sense. And so and here's the thing. I don't know. You tell me, man. I have the same source, like Final Cut Pro thing. I synthesized an audio version for the like the audio podcast. That one goes out just fine. I synthesize a video version to throw up on YouTube, and that one somehow the audio is cut out for the last PvP episode we did.
Quantum interference.
It doesn't make sense to me.
It's quantum interference.
Yeah, it's crazy. So, but anyways, we fixed it. I actually just cheated and replaced the audio on the YouTube soundtrack with the good quality audio. It was a 2-minute fix. And of course I didn't actually try playing that video or just moving it around because I don't know, it worked all the other times. So yeah, man, that was crazy. So yeah, on the production side of things, it's a little bit hectic, and we can understand why people get paid to, do things like produce podcasts and stuff like that. So even though it seems like it's just you and I running on zero budget, which it definitely is, there's a lot of stuff that goes in. But yeah. So in nothing about the production side of things and maybe the feedback. So what have been some of the things that now you're taking away from, your understanding of CTFs or the community from doing this?
Yeah. So, I mean, this for me has been an eye-opening experience in a very interesting way, specifically with. So when I think in our first video, what is Capture the Flag, right? We talked about, their CTFs and their war games, and then there's stuff like Pontoon. But throughout this season, I'm gonna make this a thing. The season of CTF Radio, we talked to the founder of Pony Racing. We talked to Fabian from Live Overflow, and there's this kind of third aspect, or what it's really got me thinking is, hey, it's not just like, here's CTF, here's, your Jeopardy, your Attack Defense, your war games. There's a lot of innovation happening in CTF, right? There's Live Overflow, which has, thousands of people watching live hacking, pony racing competition, live competition. And it's something that, it's not that I didn't know it existed, but I think the first concept of this sort of live CTF that I'm aware of was at DEF CON in 2015 or 2016. I think 2016. Mm-hmm. No, I think 2015. We were all playing for Shellfish at the time, and Shellfish, there was like this kind of hidden qualifying event for the live CTF. So they only took 4 of the 16 or whatever teams that were at DEF CON that year, and there was the first 4 to solve some challenge that was out there, right, during DEF CON. And so Shellfish was 5th, I think, and we didn't get to do the live CTF. And then I was like, oh, this sucks. I was very, very tribal back then. Very like Shellfish number 1, screw everybody else, which is actually another thing that of course that ship had to sail when we started organizing DEF CON, but also with this,
we made them get last place our first year. So
Yeah, we made them last place ever. That ship
DEF
sailed
CON
fast.
26. Real fast. It's great. It's kind of nice once you leave the ship. If the ship starts sinking, it's kind of nice feeling in some way.
Yeah, it's like, well, maybe we were useful. Um, yeah, so that's been interesting because I've been kind of not really consciously, but subconsciously kind of ignoring the live CTF area ever since it started, and now actually talking to people involved in that has been really
Right.
cool. Oh, and I
Yeah,
think
I think that'll be
also
something. Oh, go
Sir
ahead.
Darkcat also mentioned this during the Google CTF, right? Their Hackcelerate event that actually
Right.
has since been held. Maybe we should talk to them again.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the thing for me that's been, I think it's along those same lines, and it's part of why we wanted to do this is to bridge those gaps between the teams, right? It's so easy to just see each other, well, or used to be able to see each other at CTFs, and maybe you kind of you see them as the enemy. They're like, CTF doesn't have a lot of like, shake each other's hands afterwards and go out for a beer or whatever that like kind of like sports teams can do. I mean, and so there's just not a lot of like, who are those other people that are at the table? You play DEF CON CTF, you're spending 24 hours total over 3 days next to these people in a room hacking on stuff, and you spend zero of that time actually talking to them about
Yeah.
what they're doing and who they are. And so to me, that was one of the most fascinating things, was getting to try to break down those barriers a bit, getting to understand and learn from the people from AOE and from PPP and from Shellfish about and from the people from Overflow as well, about like, who are these people, and so I think that's one of the things we definitely, I mean, personally, I want to see us do more of going forward. And especially because I know it's a big thing for you, is shining a spotlight on kind of the international aspects of the CTF community.
Yeah.
It's going to be super fun in terms of scheduling for us and recording times and all of that fun stuff. But I think it's an important bridge building and kind of community building aspect.
Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes you get some time off to go partying with somebody, right? One night right after the CTF, but it's hard to build a deep connection. I mean, it's not impossible.
I vaguely remember those times, to be perfectly
Exactly.
honest. Like DEF CON 26, when I should have brought it up in the episode, is when I first met Live Overflow at the DEF CON CTF after party. But I vaguely, I mean, we were so sleep deprived, it was honestly insane. And so seeing, I didn't get to dig in and understand how he got into the CTF route. I just got to say, oh hey, that's so cool, like, nice to meet you. I've seen you on Twitter and on YouTube and stuff.
I mean, another great example, actually, because it is so you might not expect, but the Shellfish episode, right? We talked to Giovanni,
Right.
Chris, and Davide, and these are advisors, colleagues, people that we teammates. We have spent enormous amounts of time with these people, and still, we learned like parts of Shellfish history of all things. I mean, I was the captain for years and years, so there are things I didn't know.
New stories, new lore, all that kind of stuff. I mean, new things about the DEF CON CTF competition itself. Yeah, I think that was kind of amazing. And so yeah, I think it's and I'll say the other super interesting thing, and I think hopefully people get, I don't know, learn something from this podcast or whatever, or I don't know, but at the end of the day, I mean, I think what I think is, what is it changing about me and the way I approach things? And I think to me, the biggest thing that's been very impressive is talking to really good hackers and seeing that, and CTF players, and seeing that they got their start in things like Pico CTF and Seesaw. And so I think as a community, we need to think about, and personally, what are better ways that we can get people into security, so that we have like a nice on ramp into the CTF scene, so that we have people who continue to do this. When you see that, we talk to the awesome people from PvP, and like, 5 out of the people we talked to were from 2014 Seesaw, And that you could see that it sparked that interest in them, and that's why they continue to do CTFs today. So how can we do more of those things? How can we bring more people in? How can we get CTF out to the masses at earlier ages so that they can get hooked on this as we are?
Yeah, yeah. That and the interesting thing is it's not just theoretically interesting, right? Because we create cybersecurity curriculum. So it's
Exactly. Yeah, we're in a position to
interesting.
actually do something about it.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting in practice.
Do you have anything that helps people learn CTF education?
I might just be able to find something. Let me see. I have it right here. If you go to pwn.college,
Take
it's
a shot.
almost complete. It'll be complete tomorrow. Course that goes from, hey, I know a little bit about assembly. I know how to write C. I know Python. To here, I'm almost done exploiting this race condition to trigger heap misuse, through which I can override the stack, get raw payload executing, to get code execution, to then escape the sandbox by exploiting a kernel vulnerability and get the flag.
Yeah, that's the
That's
dream,
literally
man.
one of the challenges.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great, right? So then, I mean, from our perspectives, right, I think it's definitely got me thinking, and maybe you as well. How do we make, pwn dot high school and pwn dot middle school and pwn dot elementary school, right? How do you bring somebody into that? And the other thing, as far as kind of getting people into CTFs, I think the what still sticks with me and I still think about is the episode with Live Overflow when he said he got in through war games and got in to CTS basically on his own at first, right? But he didn't know how to get into CTS because he was playing on his own. So how do you get those people engaged in the game and engaged in CTFs and starting? Because I mean, we learn so much when you're actually CTFing and playing with somebody else. You can learn from their knowledge. So how do we help those kind of like I guess Ronin was already the term used by in DEF CON, right? But these kind of lone wolf people who are, obviously very good, and they're either hitting some wall that we talked about with Live Overflow in terms of education or something, right? And getting them. How do you have ways to coalesce groups and to create groups and to get people in?
Yeah, there's an interesting new um, initiative. Actually, one of our awesome guests, Zeta 2, has since created a CTF Discord, right? And we should actually probably drop the link in the show notes, where
All
there are
right.
just areas to chat about CTF, areas for. There was discussion about making an area for looking for a team. I don't know if it happened. Yes, there's a channel for looking for a team. There's a channel for write-ups, etc. Right? Voice channels, all of this fun stuff. Um, I think the CTF community is reacting to COVID in interesting ways in terms of becoming more of a community, despite obviously the fact that we can't have in-person CTFs here.
Right.
So lowering the barrier of entry of new people and new teams is obviously an important thing. The interesting thing, I think, is the podcast hopefully had takeaways for the old hats as well.
Right.
Because we want this to be interesting to CTFers, right? So
Right.
you're playing a CTF, you're competing in this crazy cybersecurity competition, and then you go and you listen to a podcast and you say, "Oh, interesting. The origin of the Jeopardy style was with Ken Shoto or whatnot, right?" So that's the challenge, I think, is can we do something through this podcast that would help the people that have already gotten into CTF and that are hovering around the 200, 300 level problems push through to the 400, 500 level problems?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, maybe some of the things that immediately bring to mind is when you hear people just talking about, the fact that how you get good is you just do a lot of CTFs, right? That was basically the common theme from almost everyone that we talked to.
Yeah, and actually, this is especially comes out on the PPP
exactly
podcast, our episode B. No, sorry, episode C. Is we kind of try to pump them for all of the secrets, and the secret is you have awesome people that are friends with each other that play CTF. It seems right.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, that in particular was something I really liked and enjoyed about that episode, and even talking to PPP about how they approach dropship AI. I mean, that could be another thing that helps, and maybe DEF CON finals challenges are actually the worst example of this, because the only people who really play DEF CON finals challenges are people, the top teams who are in DEF CON finals. But, maybe for other types of CTFs, that would be a great way of trying to learn from other people about how they approach those problems, right? I mean, some of the things that we learned from that dropship AI episode, and you and I so usually Jan and I will talk to each other after we do a podcast. So we'll do the podcast and then talk about how it went. And after that, we were just like, this is insane. Like, I can't believe nobody's ever talking about how they, solve these and approach these problems before, right? It's this like nice breaking down of the problem, but you all are trying to solve different parts, and you have multiple people working on different solutions or different ways to tackle the problem. And that they had this binary that they instrumented it to put instrumentation in there to understand more so they could optimize their strategy. I mean, this is all stuff that is generalizable skills and strategies that you can apply to a new challenge now.
Yeah. It's if someone comes up to us, in seasons of the future and says, hey, want you to know I listened to this and our team put it into practice and it worked, that would be incredible. Or that might have been a carefully planted misinformation.
I think we have to, assume good faith on all of our guests. I think they would either just not tell us, or they would. But I don't think there is any magic. I think that's the beautiful thing. It's like, nobody has like this magic system. They're like, we just run the system, it fires flags, and then we own people.
Or in other words, kind of the magic is the hacking that we've all done along the way,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's 100%. I mean, that's one of my, I'm not really big into magic, but like Penn and Teller, basically their philosophy, as far as I understand it, from some things I read, is you basically put enough time into something that other people don't believe you would get that good at that thing. And that's what magic is, right? Because people, they just don't believe it. Like I have certain tricks in my mind, but I don't want to like spoil weird ones. But they just you just practice this for days and days and months on end until you can do it so naturally that nobody would ever think that you would put the time into that, right? And that's kind of what being good at CTF is. And so it's nice to see. And obviously the same thing exists in professional sports and different kinds of areas, right? It's like there's not really a shortcut. And sure, there's talent, right? You could be born with innate talent in a sport or athletic ability. But if you don't put the work in, you're not going to go very far.
Yeah. That's I think a very good takeaway that maybe we should. An interesting genre of episode for our future seasons could be we and we've kind of done this, but we never focused on the person, and probably most people would be uncomfortable about that. Anyways, we've always had, let's talk to Crowl about Game Boy and right? But what if we talk to Crowl about Crowl? Like origins or everything. I guess we talked about our own origin stories. But it'd be interesting to get some of our teammates, get some of the people from the community, and just really dig in to what made Tyler Knee 7.
You can just call him Tyler. I think you would probably prefer that, but I think that's an interesting way of thinking about approaching these types of episodes, right? I do think, on the other hand, I think we had a really cool, like when we're able to theme an episode with a guest, like with Fabian, like Live Overflow, and we talked about specifically education and CTFs. I think they're kind of, high level topics we can try to hit that can get people in that area. One thing though, from the production side, the more people we have in an episode, the more complicated like logistics are, scheduling is, editing, actually everything is. It's kind of it's amazing and not something I realized, but but definitely,
especially. Well, I mean, obviously the production I am not involved with, but the scheduling, at least I see the emails.
Yes, exactly. So yeah, I think it's a interesting thing to explore different things. I mean, I think the other thing I definitely want to get more into is more into the history of things. And so, to specifically, I think around DEF CON CTF, I think trying to capture and talk to those early organizers and have them walk us through their game and how they approach things. I mean, we have our own view of kind of what's going on now, right? Because we are running it and running DEF CON CTF, but getting to hear that story. I mean, even those stories of the from Shellfish, where like if you didn't catch it because it went kind of quickly, they basically said there was a CTF team that the only reason they did CTF was to advertise their Linux patches, their kernel patches that would harden their kernel. So I guess I don't know all the details, but for me that sounds like they would show up to the CTF, apply their patches to the system, and basically be like, great, now nobody can hack us now or whatever. And so what did the organizers do? Instead of banning these people from the competition, they said, great, everything's Windows now.
Yeah.
And that's like fascinating to me of like how, doing those kinds of things, or the awesome School of Root, what School of Root, and which one were they when they were pretending to, and DD Tech. Yes. Yeah. So when they were pretending to play, but also organizing, like that's a fascinating, I think those stories, I don't want them to get lost to time.
Yes,
I would really like to kind of surface those.
I think that's a critical part of our mission as I see it, right? Like, is that. I think another interesting tidbit, by the way, that I found when I was lecturing about stack protections, I think, in my class this year, is that team, I think they were Immunix Security. They were founded by the people that created stack cookies. Like stack in and a couple of other protections. I don't remember which other ones, but maybe they were instrumental in like the first NX. I don't remember, but it was very interesting to see their names pop up. I think I even talked in lecture about DEF CON CTF and so on.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was the shining this kind of light on kind of the deep history of CTF is interesting to me. I think what we should actually try to set as kind of a goal is to get people going further and further back, right? I mean, we had Giovanni, the now known as the godfather of CTF.
He's definitely not known as that. Are you trying to paint him as the oldest person we've had on the podcast? Because I don't think he'll appreciate that.
I'm sorry, Giovanni. No, not that. No. What I'm saying is his living memory reaches back far in CTF, right?
Right. He created his own CTF platform for his class and his own CTF based on reading about CTFs and never having played in them. Like that to me it's so A, crazy, but B, totally encompasses the hacker ethos or the old school ethos of like, you read about something and you just build it or do it on your own because you want to. And so you could see that passion that he still has for the game from those early days of probably reading those zines or whatever about CTFs.
Yep. So I think more, I don't want to say old, but like experienced people from that era would be incredible.
Yeah, that can reflect on the history. No, I think that's great.
Yeah. And it would be cool to reach back. I mean, we haven't had actually any prior organizers on yet. You mentioned that's definitely something we're planning to, but like reaching back, like, you know, beyond Ken Shoto would be super, one of the original goons involved.
I was thinking about that. Yeah, the original goons. That would be awesome.
Yeah, people lost to time. Mysterious figures.
Yeah, they're just called the goons. That's who ran DEF CON CTF. Like, you look now, there's goons everywhere at DEF CON. It's
yeah.
It's kind of nuts.
Mainstream, sold out.
Yeah, so I think at least from our audience, we can ask, you know, if there's directions you'd like to see us go or not go in, or more of this, I think is stuff that we want to know. Like, you know, we could have, you know, some of the types of episodes we have a certain, you know, one person come in to talk about kind of a CTF that they ran, right? So just recently there was HitCon CTF this last weekend, you know, things about bringing in organizers, exploring other types of competitions that are beyond the traditional capture the flag, history stuff, or challenge specific things, I think are another kind of angle here of getting somebody in to talk about a specific challenge. So yeah, let us know. You know, I don't know, it's just the two of us. Like, we're we're happy to hear your thoughts of where you think we should go and what you'd like to see more of.
Yeah, another thing we're for sure we'll do eventually when you know, the pandemic is over is kind of live shows on location, right?
That'd be awesome.
You go somewhere and, like, you know, we're here at HitCon, just like the tricky thing, of course, if the CTF is going on. And you're like, talk to us about the CTF. Please go away. I'm hacking.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, that's definitely happened to us. You know, when, gosh, it's such a, I mean, people know, and we've talked about it a little bit, like organizing and running a CTF is like a series of peaks and valleys where sometimes it's so slow and there's just nothing to do. And it's 2 a.m. and everyone else has gone to sleep, but you said you'd stay up till 4 so that, you know, you can make sure that nothing breaks, or you can sound the fire alarm in case there's a huge problem, and you're just like waiting and waiting and waiting. And there's other times where somebody walks up and says, I've capped the service and my flags are not getting set. And then that just like, your eyes get huge and you just like go into immediate panic mode and start fixing things.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. The funny thing, we should really have more organizers. I mean, we've had a lot of people organize and plan. We've had several organizers on, but I think only one episode focused on the organization of a CTF that's not ours, right? With Certicat.
The Google CTF was, yep.
Yeah, and I mean, as we, I mean, the other interesting kind of eye-opening thing is, you know, it's easy to think, okay, everyone else must have their shit together because, you know, events happen and they work, right? And like, you know, we are the ones that are crazy, you know, winging it. There's like, you know, someone typing flags into the files manually or something insane, right? But no, I mean, it's you know.
Well, we have an example. Our first year hosting DEF CON CTF finals, DEF CON 26. The first day we didn't have a patch submission system, an automated patch review system. So we had one of the poor people on our team. People would submit a patch and they would go and check that the patch was valid or not. If it was, then we would manually deploy it. And if not, we would not deploy it.
Exactly.
And you know, sometimes you gotta go with the mechanical Turk approach and just pretend that everything was working.
Yeah. It's hosting is definitely an interesting exercise in adversarial software development.
I think most people just call it like robust software development, but
yeah, exactly. But robust.
But there is that,
you know,
yeah, there is an adversarial nature to it in the fact that these are, you know, I guess it's quite embarrassing if you have a security bug in like a normal SQL injection in your web portal to submit flags, right? So
exactly,
definitely want to avoid that if we can.
Exactly. That can be bad. Another interesting thing, if we can kind of dive through, and I mean, I'm looking at the list of episodes, and there's, you know, new things that every episode that we could revisit and cool takeaways. But I think we could go into like objective
measurements in some sense. Like, for example, I think the easy one to start with, what is our like longest episode, right?
The episode with AOE, right? So where we went over DEF CON 28.
Winners of DEF CON 28. That is
exactly. And I feel bad. I don't think we told them it could go that long. We just kind of kept talking and like liked hearing their stories, and then we would tell stories, and then next thing we know, it was like 2 hours later.
Yeah, that one was super interesting about, the preparation for DEF CON CTF of the winning team, and super open too, right? There's just another incredible thing of the CTF community.
Yeah, and I think that was great to like hear from other people, especially teams in China, about especially hearing about their structure, the structure of CTFs there, how they kind of have the collegiate teams, and then AOE and some of the other teams are kind of the professional teams that when people get a job and want to do CTF, they kind of join that team. I thought that was really interesting to think about there.
Interestingly, is one of our selling points for going to grad school at ASU, right? Is like, yeah, you could be a PhD student and do CTF. And
it's super interesting that that the US hasn't quite done that yet. Although I don't know, maybe we'll find out more when we talk to the samurai people, but at least you kind of have PvP that has been this team that has maintained over the years. Also Shellfish, a team that's maintained over the years. And so you haven't necessarily seen this like coalescing into this like professionally run team. So I think that's just kind of interesting to think about.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, actually. I don't have a quick speculation for why. This should be something we explore. All right, next one. Most popular video.
Well, this one is the easiest by far. So apparently, we invited Fabian and aka Live Overflow on because we think he's really cool and we are big fans of his work and his YouTube videos, and we met him in person, and so we had him on, not realizing what it means to bring somebody on who has 500,000 YouTube followers and probably like 50,000 Twitter followers. So that like video blows all of our other videos out of the water with like over 4,000 views and counting. So thank you, Fabian, for coming on to our little show and gracing us with your presence. We definitely got the Live Overflow bump from that in terms of subscribers and watch time and views and all that stuff. So it's basically like outclasses everything else by just an absurd amount. The next most amount of views is our very first episode with 700 views. So,
oh wow.
Yeah.
That's
so over 4,700.
Yeah, that's a lot. Cool. And I guess that probably also means that's our biggest repeated listener bump and everything, basically.
Yeah, it's hard to. I'm not a huge YouTube analytic person because I don't want to spend all my time trying to figure out how to hyper optimize our whatever for likes and clicks and subscribes, and I don't know. I don't want to play that game. I just want to like.
So then, just the question that all that. How rich are we now? Like, what's the ad? What have you millionaires yet?
Yeah, we are definitely not millionaires. We have, I think, technically lost money on this now that you made me think about it and say it out loud. So
wait, if we need money, I can advertise the smooth taste of tea. Tea should pay us.
Who's going to pay you? The tea lobby, man?
Big T.
If Tea Delivers wants to, we'll give them a shout out. Nothing goes better with CTF than my CTF collection of tea.
Exactly. Right before
no, we're not making any money. I guess we'd be happy to if somebody wants to throw us some money. The very first thing that we'll go to, though, is for somebody to edit these episodes. So it's not going into our pocket first, man. It's got a bucket that it's going to. That bucket is dry, and that will save me time.
So what you're telling me is, once again, we struck out on our $1 million idea.
It's only 12 episodes, man.
That's true. It could happen. One day.
I'm trying to think of a rock band. If a rock band gave up after the first 12 songs, who knows? Maybe we're looking back at our 5th season, thinking about, in our big fancy yachts, thinking about the amazing amount of money we're getting on YouTube.
Like the robbing zombies.
We're also cheating. I don't know how many podcast subscribers we have either, because we're cheating and hosting it on GitHub. So I took we don't even have a server to host it. It's literally a static site generator that generates all the episodes are on GitHub. And so that's just where it is now. And like, we haven't hit their limit. All of our episodes have been under the 100 meg limit. Great. And so I'm just going to keep doing that until GitHub's like, hey, your repo is way too big.
Yeah. Please stop abusing our platform.
Well, give hackers some tools, man. They're gonna figure it out. And that's, I think, what I think it actually goes into part of the ethos of like not worrying about all this stuff. Like I found a Jekyll based static site generator that's specifically for CTFs, and that's just what I use to create the site. It's nothing fancy. I very lightly modified it, and I just push it out to a GitHub repo, and it uses GitHub pages to do everything, and it just works. Like, and I know in the future we always can, I can spin up a server somewhere, we can set all that up, use AWS for the episodes, whatever. But like, I don't know, you don't want to let that stop you from getting in the way of like actually getting stuff done and getting your work out there to the world.
You have to wait until we do something controversial and to move to the dark web. CTF Radiooo.onion.
Yeah, or you have to do, can't you, didn't Facebook release something with like where you can get vanity onion URLs where you keep like trying to mine keys until you get something with a hash of, CTF radio. If somebody has that,
so
let us know.
Exactly. The hacker ethos. I'm surprised we don't have like episode 1.txt, episode 2.txt.
Yeah, man. This is part of it. You start the conventions and you just kind of got to stick with it. But going on to superlatives. So what was your favorite episode?
Oh man, this is an interesting question. It's like choosing between children.
I can tell the one in the background right now is your favorite one.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god. Yeah, that's the problem. You get a good microphone so people can hear you, and then it picks up everything in the house. Speaking of microphones, speaking of everything in the house, 2 nights ago I was working on either my next lecture or something, or challenges, and for whatever reason I was setting up OBS and I accidentally clicked stream. And for 30 minutes, I was streaming this empty room and my cat sleeping on the thing. Just porch.
How many subscribers did you get?
That's an interesting question. I didn't check how many views it had. That's
Pwn College, all your hacking needs. It's like one of those Zen koans.
That's right.
Like,
exactly.
Is he saying that like, you have to be like a cat and let your mind go free in order to hack this stuff?
Or the lo-fi stuff. I should just have streams like the night before assignments are due. Just
exactly. All right, but you're avoiding the questions, sir, and you've stalled long enough.
You're
what
right.
What's your favorite episode?
You know what's interesting? Probably my favorite episode, I would have to say, is other than I really enjoy talking about myself, so I really liked the early episodes where we were just talking about ourselves. But my favorite episode, the one I learned the most, is probably PPP history. Right. That one is interesting in that they were very open about the history and the progression of PvP. They also, represent people that we've interacted with in the CTF community constantly, and yet there's a lot there that we had people have assumed everything from PPP uses mayhem to win CTFs to a lot, and we got to actually dig in and explore this. and obviously knowing the state of automated program analysis, I didn't think the mayhem thing was the case, but
obviously, but
exploration there, and also just because there were so many people that had kind of different relationships to us there, like I was actually Ubuntu played with Shellfish during a SecCon finals in, I think, early 2016. And so like that's where I first met him. Where versus like, Tyler, I first met at DEF CON on the DEF CON game floor, where Jay, I first met at a conference or workshop, right? Academic workshop. So it's crazy. Like, different people in different contexts.
And you didn't bring any of this up in the episode?
Dude, it was already an hour and a half long.
I know. You're right. Man. But yeah, that's it. Super interesting background. I mean, I kind of, that's a really good point. I think for me, man, there's so many good ones. I really liked our chat with Fabian, and it's not just because it brought us a bunch of viewers, but I love talking with him about, approaching CTFs and education and security, like education, because it's something that's super near and dear to our hearts. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed the Dropship AI episode. I think like some of the best episodes is when I'm sitting there recording and I'm listening to them, and like I'm fascinated by what they're saying and the discussion and what's happening. And like that, at the end of that episode, I freaking loved it. And I was like, oh my God, like this was so cool. And Jay Corin and Matt were so great. And Antonio was good. And we had the challenge author and the people, and like, oh, did you do this? Did you do this? And Dropship and Dropship AI are these challenges that, like, when Antonio was describing it to me, I was like, you're an insane person. Like, I have no effing idea what you're talking about here. What do you mean, like, a ROP that's going to play a game? Like, that concept is, like, bonkers to me. And, of course, over time, I understood more and more. So to get him to tell that story and to have it, like, to bridge the 2 years of DEF CON together between Dropship and Dropship AI, I really, really enjoyed that episode.
Yeah. That one was super interesting. Maybe it's Jay. He's the secret. He's our only repeat guest. And then the episodes he's been on have come out twice now.
Yeah, no, I mean, obviously Jay was great. So yeah, I really like those episodes.
What about the episode Best Prequel? So which episode do you think best deserves a sequel?
Oh, that is a weird way of phrasing that question, but sure. You're kind of asking a little bit, who would I like to talk to again? In some sense. I think we could talk to Live Overflow again about many different aspects. So a little bit peek behind the scenes. When I started asking him if he wanted to come on, I pitched some topics. He pitched a bunch of topics. He had like a huge list of topics, which we actually then took and threw in our topics doc. And so I think, so there's a lot I think we can get into with Live Overflow. There's a lot of different aspects of the CTF and security community. And I think, I'd actually love to talk to him about streaming and this whole content creation business. Cause I just I think he understands it at a level that I don't. And there's other people out there that are like that. And on a similar note, I would love to, and this actually loops into what you talked about at the beginning of the episode, talk to Zeta too, and maybe get other people like Cyphertext and other people who've done casting to try to understand how do you make CTS and security spectatable? Because I still think, and I know you do too, it's a major, major, major problem in CTF competitions is how do you make it so that people want to watch this stuff, so that the people walking past the DEF CON booth don't just see a bunch of people on their computers as if they were walking into essentially any office building in America, right? Like, how do you make it so that they're actually doing, and we tried to do that a little bit with, when we had in DEF CON 27, we had Dropship, the game playing, or we had Doom playing. But even there, it's like, it's so hard to convey what the teams are actually doing because they're not just playing Doom. They're hacking Doom that's running on an original Xbox, and they have to hack it in order to even shoot. So the fact that they were shooting in that in those videos was insane on its own. So I think that's my answer.
Yeah.
I cheated by doing 2.
No, that's fine. I think a couple of things that I think are very well suited for sequels on. We kind of started in the early days. My first 4 episodes, really 5 if you count the Dropship AI, is about OO, right? And so we covered maybe us 2 and then 3 different OO members, but we have quite a lot of incredible teammates that I'd like to see more to talk to. Obviously, even though we talk to them all the time, it's crazy how much I miss these people because we didn't get to have a DEF CON, together, a DEF CON Claws. We were just on.
Yeah, you missed the week beforehand when we were all in the same house,
Exactly.
just working on stuff. Man, God, I can't believe that.
Yeah, I think
crazy.
Having, for example, aimbot on to talk about organizing, like the organizing the event angle.
I don't know, though. It might scare off any potential future organizers.
That's right.
So
Exactly.
We want to be very
after
careful of timing. Yeah, exactly.
I think another one that would be interesting is episode B, the shellfish history episode, right? Because of how much I learned about shellfish, despite basically pouring my life into shellfish from 2010 until I graduated, until we founded OO.
Right.
That is very interesting in the sense that I'm sure that there is some generation of shellfishes between kind of the height of Giovanni's, who's the godfather of CTF, Chris's, and Davide's power. Then, there was another generation that rose up, and then another generation that was me and you and so on. And now there have been like several generations since, right? Our students that, are now, capping flags with shellfish. They are, 2-3 generations removed from us, right? And that would be interesting to see. We got that in the PPP episode. Because
that was a good. I think they had a great approach. I mean, we didn't even ask them to do this. That's all credit goes to them for getting. I just asked Tyler if they wanted to do an episode about this, and he's like, "Oh yeah, let me see if any of the captains, right?" So they have that very clear cabal of captains that are still Captain Emeritus that are still basically helping run PPP, and so that was I think a great. Yeah, getting to see that almost like a vertical or horizontal, I don't know, a slice of the PPP captainhood over time. Yeah.
So I think a couple of sequels of Shellfish would be super interesting because now we've seen the origins, we've seen the early years, but there's still a gap before even I showed up, right? Because by the time I showed up, it was
well, you showed up right when Will graduated, so that's Nick. What.
Sorry, go ahead.
Ludo and Nick, they would be good. Oh, I'm just saying you showed up right when the same time that 2 years after. Right. Yeah, that's right. So 2008 is when Will graduated.
Mm-hmm.
No, 2009. All right, damn it.
Yeah, I showed up the day after Vika graduated.
Yes. So I overlapped with Vika and Will during my master's, but I wasn't full-fledged. At least I didn't have a PhD to absorb all of my non-CTF time, I guess. So I wasn't going full hard into CTF, but I did play a lot.
Yeah. Something like this. And, I think that would be a very cool series. What might be really interesting is a community episode where we get Ronan on. Talk about, people that have soloed CTFs. I know, obviously, GeoHot, Relmot has done a couple of solos. There's, Fish has done a solo. I don't remember which CTF, but I think he won it during a conference. I don't remember what it was. Anyways,
it was like the security and privacy CTF, or was it? So it wasn't affiliated with the conference.
I don't remember. Yeah, I don't remember.
Cool story.
Exactly. This is why we should have an episode about it. soloing CTF.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, like free solo, right? Like the people that climb rock cliffs with no, free soloing CTFs. Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, I think it can be very cool. Anyways, there's quite a lot of obviously there's a lot of episodes. We have a idea list as long as our hair,
and it keeps growing too.
Keeps growing. Yeah, it's
I think the other thing that we've talked about in the past that maybe you want to throw out here, right, is we talked a little bit about bridging the gap between like international organizations, getting to know other international organizations, but the other thing that I know is really important to you is what is the CTF scene like in those other countries, right? So we kind of got hints of that with AOE and talking about they had what's that CTF that runs all the time that they have
like the league,
or whatever, right? Exactly. Yeah, like what does the CTF scene look like in different countries? Or the sounds like the Korean CTF team is basically, or CTF scene was basically the impetus for creating PvP, right? Yeah. Brian had competed in some and got Tyler and others to play in those CTFs. So, what are those scenes like? What do they kind of CTFs do they play in?
Yeah. There's I think everyone can expect some interesting stuff in future seasons. This is the sort of cliffhanger, or rather the sort of thing like the Office, I guess, had this sort of sudden departure of a character.
Like, what are you saying? What are you trying to say, man?
I don't know. Now that we've built it all up, who knows? We come back and Adam has to tell the world the sad fate of Zardus.
Oh man, you are making me too happy.
That's too or that Christmas tree could fall on you right now. That can be the cliffhanger.
That's life. That's how it goes. I don't think anybody would ever see this episode because you'd have to figure out how to.
Yeah, I'd have to contact support.
Amazing. Okay, anything else you want to say? I think we're close to the end. You already left a cliffhanger of who may or may not be back next year.
Exactly. They'll kill off one character. What else? I think the takeaway is it has been very cool to see how human the CTF scene is. Right? It's very easy to think about these top hackers as gods. It's very easy to think about these top hackers as socially inept people locked in their
nerds
basements.
And yeah, exactly. I 100% agree. Yep.
But it's over and over with every single episode, we've seen awesome, personable people that are passionate about security and just want to push the field forward. And that's great. Maybe we just have the right people on, but it's been very cool to see that. Definitely not what you might consider like a highly competitive field might be like, but actually I now suspect maybe they are all like this.
Right. Maybe you just don't see that from the outside, right? And I think that's what's been so nice. And it wasn't something that we thought we'd discover. We weren't like, oh, let's shine the light on these awesome humans behind CTF. It was like, oh, let's get to know these people for all of who they are and their potential flaws. And it turns out everyone was awesome.
Yeah. Cool. So here's to another awesome season of awesome people.
Yeah. Come check us out in the new year. Yeah, exactly. So thanks for joining us today, everyone. I'm Adam D. You can find me on Twitter at Adam Dupay. He's Zardus. You can find him on Twitter at Zardus. Together we're CTF Radio, and you can find us online on YouTube or Twitter at CTF Radiooo. And you can send us questions through email at ctfradioo@gmail.com. And who knows, your questions may end up on a future episode of CTF Radio. Take care and happy hacking.
Enjoy the holidays.